All right, everybody, we are live, and then we have this channel called Philosapiens, where I say that religion meets reason, and what we do is we criticize mostly ideologies and religions, and we talk about religion from a logical and philosophical perspective, basically. And today with me is Mahadan, and what we are gonna do is there was a very kind of entertaining debate or uh, feisty debate, I should say, rather, between Muslims and Christians. I think it was, I'm not quite sure whether it was about Tawhid. That's what I thought, but it was Islam versus Christianity. The title was, I think, Islam versus Christianity. But then the whole, debate focused mostly on Tawhid versus Trinity. So that's what we are gonna do. The debaters consisted of Sam Shamoun and Jay Dyer on the Christian side, and Ijaz the Trini was and Daniel Haqiqatjou on the Muslim side, basically. So we're gonna see, actually, from our perspective, both of them seem wrong, and anybody who has seen the thumbnail realizes that I put in big red letters wrong there. But anyways, before we dive into that debate, let me welcome Madin. Madin, how are you doing? We're doing this stream after a long time, right? An English stream.
Yeah. I think the last English stream we did was with
That was a
Phil.
bummer.
Phil?
Yeah.
With Phil? No. Oh, after that it
That
was
was
with.
Elon Musk. I think we
Oh,
did. I think our audience doesn't know that we did another stream on Elon Musk, and which was taken down, by the way, by YouTube. And basically, it was taken down on the, uh, you know, copyright disclaimer by the original,
mm.
creator producers of the video, basically.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Which
go
by
ahead.
the way, was a false allegation. So I'm surprised. I'm surprised that
Yeah,
they
I
actually.
think, yeah. I mean, see, it's the whole issue of copyright is a big complicated maze that I can't navigate through pretty much. So
No, I mean, yeah, that's right. I mean, well, it is complicated, but I mean, initially, so what for those who might be interested, initially, I gave some advice to Philo saying that it's fine, we can watch that video. There's no issue. Thanks for starting the stream after a decade.
yeah.
Might go down any day. Why is that? I wonder. Um, but I gave some advice to Philo saying that it'd be fine to review the Elon Musk stream. Don't worry about it. It's just fair use. Fair use. You can criticize literature. You can criticize media. So as long as we give credit. So as long as we use a bit of the clips or video. So as long as we have our own creativity to it, added to it. So as long, etc., etc. And I was seemingly wrong. Yeah. So the bots on YouTube had put it down. Maybe so. Maybe it was right in their mind at the time, or whatever. I don't know. It was, or I said it was algorithm misfiring, and we appealed it, and we seem to have won the appeal. It was correct that in this instance there was a fair right exception for us. We were just using it fairly. However, for some reason, we still don't have the video, and it seems as though the original owners of the video, I think so anyway, Philo, the original owners are continuing to dispute our copyright claim
I
personally.
think there are many dimensions to this thing, and to be quite honest, I'll feign my ignorance on it, basically. And the reason being, basically, if somebody produces a video on their own setup, basically, in a studio, say it's a studio like CNN or BBC or something like that, they produce it in their own setup and then
Mm.
go and upload it on YouTube. Probably they have a right copyright, thing, and it doesn't fall under fair use premises, basically, or it doesn't fall under that constraint of fair use, basically. But that's what I'm saying. It's a whole messy
Sorry,
thing,
If you, if
basically.
you if you upload it on your own setup, sorry, I don't understand that. What do you mean? So Hello.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. What were you saying, Madan?
So what did you say? If you create your own video on your own setup,
Yeah, I'm saying if it's coming out of your studio that has a copyright content, let's say BBC has copyright to its own news items, basically, or their own kind of say they have a series with you know nature, basically, right? What's his name? That
yeah,
guy,
yeah,
very famous guy, right? So they have a copyright to it. So whenever they upload something of it on YouTube, they have a copyright still,
yes,
basically.
yes.
It's not up for fair use. That's what my thinking is, basically. That's what I'm thinking, and that's what happened with this review that we did, basically.
No, no, no. That's not correct at all. That's not correct. All forms of media, including movies, all forms of media, movies, books, literature, they can all be subject to the fair use exception. So as long as you're not revealing all of it. So if I, this is like free, like understandings of copyright here. But if I upload a video full of, let's say the Titanic with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet, and I play it all from start to end, you know, and I make a few comments here and there, but most of it's most of the movie. That's vast majority of the movie, and that might not fall under fair use. But if I break it up into sequences, if I alter it a lot, if only about 20%, 5 to 10% of the movie showing, people do reviews, movie reviews. If you type in movie reviews, you'll see how they do it, and those are completely protected by copyright. And as you know, the movie Titanic is owned by a particular production company. I don't know who it is. I think James Cameron or something like that. His company, whatever he's got, or companies. Or I don't know. I don't know the nitty gritties. So the same thing for BBC. Everything is subject to the fair use exception. So what's happened here? The most likely hypothesis of what's happened here is that the original copyright holders. So YouTube is acting like a mediator. What we did was appeal our case, and YouTube thought that yes, it falls within the fair use exception. But it seems as though the original company, the Elon Musk company, I think it's the look. I'm talking. I'm not 100% sure which company we're talking about here, but the company who owned the video, who holds the video, right, are still disputing it, and they can do that, right? They can continue to dispute it. At that point, it's more of a civil issue. You take it to court, right? That's all. That's all that's happening. I mean, if somebody says that no, I don't want to let you use my video, then if you wish to say actually this is within the fair use exception, what happens? You take it to court. But this is how big companies can end up stopping you from using their stuff, not because they have a legit merit-worthy copyright claim where you've infringed their material, but they can just scare you with, we're disputing it, and it stops you from using it, and then you have to take it to court, etc. And most people won't do that, right? And I think that's what's happening here. The most likely hypothesis is that if you just, so we can do the same thing, really. We can release this video or something, or any other video, and block it on copyright grounds.
Yeah, see, it's a complicated maze to just navigate through.
Yeah.
So it's better we stay off of it, basically, right? uh,
I'm just echoing
it's
this
it's not
public.
worth our time to engage in
Oh,
copyright issues and then reappealing and all those things. I think,
yeah,
yeah,
no. So I thought some people in the
it's not
audience
worth our
maybe
time.
some
Yeah.
people may be interested in the controversy element of it. I thought, I think they might want to know. Plus, sometimes you got to take it to the public, right? There is like a saying even in law, which is that if the court of law doesn't work, take it to the court of public opinion. you know, and that can sometimes, yeah. But one quick last thing that I just say, by the way, if anybody wants to know, anything can be a copyright. Like if you draw a picture, that's copyright protected. If you take a photo, that's copyright protected. If you make a painting, that's copyright protected. You don't need to make an application and get a license. For most jurisdictions, particularly in the UK, this is the case. I can't say whether this applies all the way in Jamaica, but most European jurisdictions are similar. As soon as you design, create, innovate something, even a piece of work like your essay at university, that's copyright protected straight away, right? As long as you can prove it, that was your work, nobody's allowed to disseminate it without your permission, without your consent, and especially for financial, commercial gain, etc.
All right. Now let's proceed towards the debate. I think people are waiting. How many ever there are, basically, right, Madan? Okay, let's get to the. Uh, shall we start it?
Yeah, go for it.
Tawhid. Christianity is polytheistic because Christians worship three separate gods known as the Trinity. Christians claim that this is false. The Trinity is not three separate gods, the Trinity is three in one. But does this claim make sense? First of all, there's a logical contradiction in the Trinity. How can the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit all be one God, but they also not be identical beings? The Father is God, the Son is God, the Holy Spirit is God. It's all one God, but the Father is not the Son is not the Father, and neither of them are the Holy Spirit. This is a logical contradiction. The only way to solve the contradiction is to admit that the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are three separate gods, not just one God. This is, of course, polytheism. As Muslims, we challenge Sam and Jay to resolve this logical contradiction for the audience. Explain to us how the Father, Son, and Spirit are all one God, but they're not identical with each other, and explain it in a way that the average layperson can understand it. A layperson can understand that God is one. He is one God, and he can have multiple attributes. That's Islamic monotheism. I can explain it in one sentence. Can Sam and Jay explain the Trinity without resorting to a bunch of convoluted gobbledygook? We'll see. What Sam and Jay want to do is to try to claim that Islam's conception of God is actually just as complicated as the Trinity. This is a cheap debate tactic, as we'll see. They can't address the logical problem of the Trinity, so they want to make it seem like we have the same problem in Islam. But we don't. There is nothing analogous to the logical problem of the Trinity in Islam. For example, they might claim that Allah's attributes in Islam are incoherent. No, they're not. We can all understand how a person can have multiple attributes, how God can be all-knowing, all-powerful, merciful, loving, etc. This is not hard to understand. Those attributes of God are not separate people with their own minds, but according to the Bible, Jesus and the Father have separate knowledge. They have separate wills. For example, in Mark 13:32 in the Bible, we read, "But about that day, i.e. the day of judgment, no one knows, neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father." So the Son doesn't know when the day of judgment is, but the Father does know. So this indicates two separate minds. This is polytheism. There are more examples that we can cite in the rebuttal sections, but keep in mind that in the 7th century, the official position of the church in the Third Council of Constantinople, they held the position that Jesus has two wills. The church defined Jesus as having two energies and two wills, one divine and one human. Two separate wills means two separate minds. This means that Jesus.
All right, Madin. I think he's getting into scriptures, so I just wanted to step back and see the very first few sentences that Daniel said about Trinity and whether it's a logical contradiction, basically.
Yes.
And I would like to elaborate that point a little
Before we
bit more
proceed,
and look at it
yeah,
into a little bit more deeply. Sorry, were you saying
yeah,
something?
before we proceed, I know before the stream I said that they don't go into the logical. I probably forgot Daniel's opening statement, which he did. So I just want to correct that. So we were discussing before the stream, for people who don't know, what the content was about and so on. And I think I mischaracterized it as not being really philosophical in nature, more scriptural. But it looks like it is going into the philosophy.
Into the philosophy, basically.
Yeah.
But he's yeah. I mean, it's. I think the way I want to put it is he's still. I mean, there is no logical contradiction when somebody says that God is the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, right? I mean, you have to really, actually tear it apart as to what they are saying, basically, when they are saying, as in, is it the God's essence, basically? God's mind is one and he has a body as well. Then the Spirit also has the mind of God. So basically, it's only one God, but three personifications, basically. So, I mean, just off the top of my head, I can say that it doesn't seem like there is a contradiction there. I mean, you can say that, okay, if somebody claims that he is a single mind, God is a single mind, Father is another mind, and the Son is another mind, right? Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit are three separate minds. Then probably you can say that there is a logical contradiction. But without
Mm.
having a proper clarification into those terms, I think we are still dealing with the word that Daniel used is gobbledygook, basically, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, we all agree that that Christian theology of Trinity is kind of convoluted and seems like a gobbledygook, but I can't see a straightforward, logical contradiction over there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if the Trinity was somehow happened to just find its way into the Quran, right, they would come up with the same sort of gymnastics and ways of kind of figuring out how it can
Finding
be
it, yeah.
logically possible, right? This seems a bit. It's always struck out to me this as a bit of a cheapish point that Muslims raise, given that, and we'll see this soon, that given that there are similar instances within the Quran as well, and Shamoun will go into some of those. So it doesn't seem, why there's this focus. I remember when I was young, people, I used to hear that how could God be a human and a God at the same time, or how could God have a son? And I always thought that, you know, if this was, within the Quran, something like this, I'm pretty sure people can just come out with justifications for it. So I always sensed a sense of um, using the most convoluted logic to defend Islam, whereas we're not affording the same for Christianity. I felt that even when I was very young, like, and I thought, why can't we just say this? Why can't we just do this? Why can't we perform the same sort of gymnastics? So they're not as lenient when it comes to
Trinity, right? Yeah, or Christian
it's very,
theology. And
yeah, they're very straightforward. Then they'll come out with things like, how could three things be one? 1 + 1 + 1 equals 3, not one.
right.
Or something
I
like
mean,
that. Yeah.
the mathematics becomes much easier when you're dealing with it. It doesn't become 1 multiplied by 1 multiplied by 1. It becomes 1 plus, as in you can't multiply 1, one, you can multiply 1 by, finite number of times and you'll still get
Yeah.
1, right? And you
Yes.
can do that sort of mathematical, mental gymnastics and arrive at the conclusions that you want.
Mm.
And you rightly said that the very fact that if they had been on the Christian side with the same problem of Trinity in the Quran, they would have used exactly the same logic to defend
Yes.
themselves that the Christians are using,
Yes.
basically.
Yes. So I personally don't think there is an issue necessarily with the Trinity. It really all depends on interpretation, what it says, how it defines the nature, and it may or may not be a contradiction. But there can be ways where three things can be part of one thing or one thing, and it depends, as you said, the nature of the thing in question, right? In a context dependent, so like you said, if it's three independent things, three separately embodied in distinct things, which is ultimately one, then that sounds like a contradiction, right? But then you need to think about it different ways. Maybe you say here's examples of things where three things can be still one thing, depending on the context of what we mean by that, to reconcile any intellectual contradiction or whatever. For example, you may think there are three police officers, but they're all one. Now, what do I mean by that? Once you get to the meaning of what we mean, then the contradiction might disappear. We don't mean there's one police officer who is also three police officers. That is,
Right.
we're not saying that. What we're saying is that they're part of the police force, right? And now, when you think about it like that, now you go, all right, I understand in the context. It doesn't mean that contradictory thing that we thought. Rather, it means there is three distinct persons there, three distinct police officers, but they're all part of one team
One
organization.
essence, one greater essence, or whatever, however you
Yes,
want to visualize it, basically,
yes.
right?
And there's no contradiction between that, and clearly that happens in the world. We do have, in fact, we have more than three police officers in the world, and they're all one part of one thing. And then you can have other stuff like maybe you can think of the concept of water, H2O, right? It contains hydrogen, it contains oxygen, right? It's two hydrogen atoms, one, etc., etc. But it's one molecule, right? Now, when you understand the concept of an atom and you understand the concept of a molecule, now you've got now there's no contradiction. But without a person understanding the nature molecule and understand the nature of an atom, they may think when you first hear it that these many things that we're defining, these three objects, right? We have two hydrogen, one oxygen. That can't be one because we have three entities here.
Right.
It sounds like
Exactly.
that prematurely,
Yeah.
but when you understand the nature of it, then you get further understanding. So my point is, I don't know whether the Trinity makes sense or not, but my point is there are metaphysical possibilities or logically reconcilable possibilities where you can reconcile three different things, and then
And
also
avoid
that
the contradiction. Yeah. And
yes,
avoid the
yes,
contradiction, basically,
yes.
right?
And if
I mean,
Christians would say,
just to be clear that we are not
yeah,
siding with the Christians basically here, and there is one certain way when this concept is taken might fall into contradiction as well, which sometimes and that's the hard thing about it basically, because when you say that these things, the Trinity is God the Father is a single mind, God the Son is a single mind, an independent mind, and the Holy Spirit, God the Holy Spirit, is an independent mind, which I hardly see any Christian define it that way. I mean, that's a very frank answer, and from a very neutral perspective, that I haven't seen any Christian define it that way. They always say that it's the they are not independent; they are the same God. Basically, they are the essences and all those things. Basically, maybe a street Christian would know all these things because he hasn't probably thought over all those things pretty much that seriously. But yeah, there is a way in which you can reach contradiction, but very
mm,
rarely you'd see somebody conceding that point
mm.
basically.
I think. Look, I'm not heavily informed about the Christian defenses here, so I don't want to. I don't know the internal debates. I don't know the deep theology, so I can't really comment thoroughly. What I have read or understood superficially from some proponents through a misadventure, if you want to call it, like via my philosophical education through, like, let's say people like William Craig, who may have said a few things here and there that I just happened to hear, happened to catch it, happened to absorb, is that the nature of God, the nature of the Trinity, the nature of all of this stuff, it's similar to I think he compared it to this mythological figure with three heads with one body. I forgot. I think Subaru, or something like that.
Subaru.
Maybe, or Hiru something. I don't know. You may want to
So,
Google that while we talk about it. Yeah. So yeah. So, and William Lane Craig argued that God is three in person but one in being. Now that might still sound contradictory, but that's what he is saying, that it's three persons in one being, right? So in the William Lane Craig sense, which I'm pretty sure falls under one school of thought, which I am uneducated about, right? In the William Lane Craig's version of it, it is three indistinct minds, but God is one in being, in which case, and he wanted us to imagine this Greek or antiquated creature. Maybe it's from the Greeks. I don't know. I'm hoping, Philo, you're googling it to shed light upon it. But just so imagine this creature with a body. Imagine the creature with a body, but has three heads, and each of those three heads has three different personalities, and they interact with each other, but they're part of one being, one organism, if you want to call it. So that's how he kind of understands it. Now, I don't know whether that conforms with Christian scripture and Christian theology. I'm pretty sure that's one school of thought. I don't know if William Lane Craig is laughed outright by Christians or not. I don't think so. I don't think he is regarding that. And if you think about it like that, then in this case, it is three different persons, it seems to be, but they're just one unit together, right? Is that polytheism? Is that monotheism? I don't know. Is there a contradiction there? So there's two contradictions. First of all, is there a contradiction between being three and one? No, I don't think so. When you understand that it's three persons in one being, is there a contradiction between that and being a monotheist? Maybe, right, or maybe not. Maybe it is a form of monotheism. So
So
that's like
there is a Greek goddess basically,
yeah.
Hecate, with the name Hecate. uh, she has three heads basically. So I'm assuming that this concept of three heads, one person kind of, or that kind of an identity. Even I think you can find similar god concepts in Hinduism as well, pretty much, right? I think I can't remember, I can't recall from memory as of now, but I'm pretty sure one of the gods, probably Krishna or Vishnu or some other god, might have like three heads and one body. And so, as far the far back you go in time, basically in history, you'll stumble upon these kind of concepts where you have a god, but then has three heads, so three independent personifications, in a sense you can call them basically.
Hmm.
And then so these probably when these concepts got filtered into like more modern times, from their periods to Christianity's time, basically these got kind of twisted in a sense where I'm thinking, I could be wrong here basically, but I'm thinking that they were kind of filtered in a sense that they became three essences of a single god basically, but they were still like three different personifications basically in
Hmm.
different times, or maybe
Hmm.
through so that's possible. And I'm pretty sure that it's even in Egyptian mythology, there were gods who had like these kind of three essences and one person, or three heads, one
Hmm.
person, kind of those kind of manifestations basically, in a sense, right?
Yeah.
And those got into Christian culture. And see, as I think we have what uh, we have a person joining, Madan. You want to take him, or shall we?
Yeah, yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, Waqas, you joined, and I think Muhammad Waqas, you joined, and I think you left.
Is that
So, if you want to join,
is he joined
come
before?
on over. Hmm?
Has this person joined before?
I think if it's Waqas, then we spoke to him on the last stream. I think Muhammad
Right.
Waqas, I think it's
So
him.
can we limit it to like a 5 minute response?
Sure,
So
sure,
so that
sure,
we
sure.
can continue the video. If you want to come on for 5 minutes and just make your point or something, but we
Yeah, no,
can't.
he left already. He left already. So,
Whatever. Okay.
uh, sure, sure, not a problem. Ayan. Okay, Madan, sorry. Go ahead. You were saying something.
No, so that's one. Excuse me. That's one way of conceiving of a god. So the question of one and three and it becomes very difficult because
You have
do
to
we
get the
consider
context right, basically. You have
yeah,
to get the context right, pretty much. In what
yeah,
sense? And
yeah, do we
I'm
consider
pretty sure the theology has evolved over the years as well, pretty much. Uh, they had a different concept. They saw objections to it. So they, instead of three persons, they said these are three essences, but God is one, mind is one. These are three
yes, yeah.
manifestations of the same God, and all those things, basically.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Absolutely.
if you raise an objection, saying how can a god have a son, I mean that's a valid objection, but then from an Islamic perspective, you have to also ask a question: what what does it mean when God creates Jesus, basically, because he doesn't have a biological father, so who's the father? Basically, that's a valid question to be asked. Basically, they would say no, it was a divine intervention, and God, breathed into whatever, right? Mary's private
Mm,
part, and then so Jesus was born, and all those things. But then again, where is it? It's not a normal biological son. So
mm.
do you still think, does according to your theology, do you still think that Jesus is God's son because he breathed whatever, and then Jesus was born? If you don't concede that fact, then he's
So
not a biological son.
do you
He's
know
not a
how?
son in a regular sense, and he's
Mm.
not God's son. So what is he, basically? So you have to respond to that objection as well, basically.
Yeah, I mean, again, the meaning of son, the meaning of being God's son is very important to understand. And I would feign a bit of ignorance here, given that I'm not exactly sure how Christians talk about it. But it could very well be the case that the word son means something different from biological reproduction. You know, so
Right, right.
is this in stark contrast to the Islamic conception? Well, none is born of Allah, right? No, no, nobody can be born of God. So, what did that mean within that context, within the Islamic scripture? And it depends what it meant, right? If it means something like progeny in terms of biology, in terms of DNA, in terms of genetics, in terms of reproduction, in terms of pregnancies, and then
Yeah,
obviously,
it's a huge semantic issue, pretty much in a sense. Basically,
yeah,
you'll have to
yeah,
deal with those questions as well. Like, I mean, those objections as well.
yes, exactly. But but did it mean something else when I said none is born of him? And I mean, what's the surah? Is this Surah Ahad, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, no, Surah class, basically. I mean, that's. Uh, but the
I'm
problem I'm
thinking,
citing is basically
are you,
coming from another where I think
are you sure? I'm pretty sure it's
House of
Surah Ahad.
House of House of Imran. I think probably the one I'm talking about. But okay, so Waqas has joined. So
All
let's
right.
talk to Waqas for Waqas. You have 5 minutes. This is an English stream, so we'll be conversing in English only. Your request for Hindi won't be entertained. Hindi or Urdu won't be entertained. So if you want to talk in Hindi or Urdu, probably this is not the right stream for you to join. But if you're comfortable talking in English, you're most welcome. How are you doing?
Okay, hello guys, how are you?
Good, good.
So
Good.
actually,
So did you start reading some philosophy books as I requested you to do?
I don't need any philosophy books. Maybe you
All right.
need.
So we'll keep reminding you every time you come to our channel. I promise you.
No, that's not the issue. Maybe you can follow some people who
Because you
think
think you
this
understand
is like
philosophy,
that,
but
this is like that.
let me tell you, yeah, you think you understand philosophy, but sorry to say this very bluntly,
No,
right?
every opposite person says every opponent a person he always talk about his opponent that he didn't know about philosophy or like that. So it's not new for me to comment such things. You are commenting on
Okay,
me. That's
all right.
that's not a
In
that's
any
not a
case, let's be cordial, right? Let's be cordial. Let's be charitable to each other. That's about it. So go ahead, ask your question, whatever you want to ask.
I don't know what's your topic today, and I even didn't see that debate yet. But
So, to be
hopefully,
honest, even Mahaden and I haven't seen the whole debate. But what we did was, since this was a hot topic, and from our perspective, I think both of you have problems in your theologies, basically. And so we said, let's go and just, talk about it. So that's why we, just started. I haven't seen the whole debate. I just heard about it, that it's, there have been a lot of reviews going on YouTube, about this debate, but I haven't seen this debate. So Madin has just,
so what was the
skimmed
topic
through a little bit.
actually?
So
Is this
the
debate between Muslim and Christian?
yeah, this is a debate between Christians and Muslims, basically. Yeah,
Okay, so what's the topic? What was the topic?
I think they're mostly right now talking about Tawhid versus Trinity, basically, which makes more sense. And Daniel Haqiqatjou makes a point that you know Tawhid is a pure monotheism, wherein Christianity is not a pure monotheism. Basically, that's the point he's making, trying to make. And we are saying, I mean, you have to really tease out what Christians mean when they say talk about Trinity, right?
Yeah, I know about the
So
Trinity
I mean,
concept.
they
Actually,
can. I mean, a clear contradiction in their worldview would be if they say God is one, uh, you know, Father is one God, Jesus is one God, and Holy Spirit is one God. Right now, those are three people, three different minds, and then that's not clear monotheism, basically, right? But as long as they
Actually,
have a different way to reconcile that, you can't claim that yours is a better or more purer monotheism, basically. I mean, you have to really
actually
tease out
that
as to what they are saying.
yeah. Actually, first that idea was presented by Saint Paul. Actually, Saint Paul was the person, a guy who indulged this Trinity concept first, and that was not like today's Trinity concept, because at that time the Trinity was about the you know Jesus'
Yeah, yeah,
mother.
it doesn't
She
matter who
was also.
proposed it, right? We know what Paul did, right? Paul's letters. By the way, let me just be honest about it. We are both weak in our understanding of Christian scriptures, so that's something we acknowledge here. What we're gonna deal with is mostly on the philosophical basis, basically,
Yeah.
whether their
So let me
conceptions
just
fit.
say something. Let me just say something. If I thought Waqas possibly had a question regarding what we were talking about, but given that Waqas has just come on just for talking sake, I think we should just continue the review. Simply because I thought somebody was coming on to have a discussion about what we already stated, right?
Yeah, I would also say to Waqas that,
Yeah.
Waqas, you listen to what we have talked so far, and then if you have a question, then maybe come and ask. Because right now, if we talk to you, then
Yeah,
our
that's a better idea.
flow into the review stream will be broken. So
Yeah,
yeah, sorry
yeah.
about
You are right. You are right. Because
yeah,
right
because your
now I
question
don't
is
know what's the.
you haven't watched what we were talking about actually before this, right? So
Yeah.
or maybe
Yeah,
come
even
towards
though
the end.
I don't know about even I don't know about your arguments. So yeah, it's actually a blind talk. You can say it
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, yeah. I think you come after the review is over. Maybe that's a better time to talk to us
Mhm.
then, right?
Okay,
Then we can
Listen,
entertain
okay.
some
Bye bye.
other question as well, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
listen to what we're
Okay,
saying, and then
okay,
you can respond to what we've said
okay.
already.
Bye bye, guys. Bye
All
bye,
right.
guys.
Okay. All right. All right. Bye bye. Okay. Let's run the video again, right? Let's see.
Yeah, go for
Jesus
it.
and the Father have two separate minds and are therefore two separate entities. You either explain this by admitting it is polytheism, or you have to give us some convoluted explanation of how two minds or three minds are still one God. There's nothing analogous to this in Islamic theology. Islam says there's one God. He has knowledge, he has will, one knowledge. These things are not divided between multiple persons or energies or anything like that. And all of this Islamic monotheism is clearly expressed in the Quran, by the way. Contrast this with the Bible. Jesus is meant to be God, all knowing, and the only teacher to the disciples, but the
Can you pause it? So some of this can be just reconciled by understanding that it might not be a discrete thing, where three separate minds. A mind is either separately independent and or not. So if this they cannot be. So what I'm saying is that the idea is that minds can only be in unique, distinct, independent, separate things. My question is that really the case? Now, I'm talking about philosophically here. We're talking about ontologically here. We're talking about thought experiments. We're talking about abstract thinking. I'm not saying that this is the case, but maybe even in neuroscience, this might be the case in the sense that there are situations where two brains are conjoined, and there isn't this kind of discrete, two separate, entirely independent minds. Sometimes the minds web together and flow together, and there's shared kind of access to thoughts, right?
Exactly,
And
and that's what I was thinking. As in, even within a brain, you have different parts coordinating, which are uh, spatio-temporally separated. At least spatially, not temporally, but especially they are separated. Basically, amygdala or prefrontal cortex or whatever you have it. Basically, right? Hypothalamus and all those parts, right? They coordinate. They are still brains, basically, and part of a single brain, basically, right? And you could think of something similar to that in terms of Trinity. Basically, they are conjoined, they work together, basically, in a sense they are one.
Exactly. Think about it as well from the concept of a split brain creation. When you split the brains of one person, and then you end up with two distinct personalities. Things on the right hemisphere, things on the left hemisphere. They have different
Exactly.
thoughts, concepts, self identities, preferences, and you become two. But imagine before you've cut it into two distinct halves, you've only severed it a little bit, right? and it's now damaged, or we're in the middle. It's not completely disconnected into two separate hemispheres. It's not completely attached, right?
Right.
What do you have there, right? You have something different, but you have one brain that is capable of things that the other brain isn't. But there's also shared unity between them. Now, is that two persons or is that one person? Maybe it isn't discrete. Maybe our language just breaks down. Maybe we would say it's a bit of both, right? Maybe we would say this is two persons in one. Now, could it be something like that? My point is, we can think of already physical examples of things like that. Maybe we can think of more logical examples of situations like that where there are three different personalities, but they share one source, right? And if that's the case, I don't see again. Minds have to be these. As soon as we think about three minds, they have to be separated entirely. It could very well be there are three minds that merge together a little bit into this kind of collective consciousness, and they're three persons in one mind. Is that philosophically possible? Is it logically possible? Is it physically? It might even be physically possible. And if that's the case, it seems as though we can. It's not necessarily a contradiction how Daniel is talking about it, where if God is defined as three separate minds, then it cannot never be the case. So sorry, if Jesus is defined as one mind, Holy Spirit is defined as one mind, God is defined, then it can never be the case that this is one as well. Well, actually, we just thought about it now, and it seems to be the case. You can think of a case, one metaphysical possibility where it could be.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And I'm saying even you have to you don't even have to come to the physical part, because when you're talking about a god, and if your conception of a god is that it's beyond material, it's non-material, it's metaphysical, then any mind could be present in three separate places, or 3,000 separate places, or 3 trillion places, and still could be a single mind, because uh, in at least philosophically speaking, you
Mm.
don't know how a mind sans material behaves, basically, right?
That's
That's
yeah,
that
that's,
could be
yeah,
one of
right.
the argument, basically.
That's
So
correct.
right.
So again, it kind of goes back to how we're defining these things and what we mean by these things. I mean, you can even think of examples of AI today. AI having three separate, or four separate, or five separate, or 1,000 units of different sort of AI devices that are ultimately part of one network, right? And
Right.
and they can be all collectively conscious, and they share information together. Is that one thing, or is that several, many different things, or is it just a bit of both? Is it just a language game where we?
It's a semantics issue,
Yeah,
basically, right? At that
yeah,
point, pretty much, right?
yeah.
And this is language that, Madin, you'll see that even Muslim apologists will engage in later on at some point, and I'm probably jumping the gun. Basically, when you ask about deeper questions into what is the status of Quran, and these are not the questions that have been just asked like today. These questions have been asked for millennia, pretty much. A lot of the classical uh, scholars from Islamic background have debated these topics, whether the Mutazilis were asking the question whether Quran is co-eternal with God or not, right? And they did believe that Quran is co-eternal with God. And if you have co-eternality with God, whether it's two beings, uh, as in God as a being, as well as Quran as a being, basically, right? And
Mhm.
so you have your problems over there as well, and you have to come up with these, gobbledygook yourself, pretty much, right? So I think it goes both ways, pretty much, right? It's not that you don't have the same problems. You think your version of monotheism is perfect, but then when you say that God has a hand, he has a shin, he has loins and all those things. What do these words mean, basically? I mean, if you are talking about, uh, then when you object to how can God come into a human body, you have your own problems to solve as well, pretty much over there. So
Yeah,
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 it
yeah.
goes both ways, I think.
And I've said this before. I don't think there's anything wrong with God coming into a human form at all. In the sense that you may think if God becomes a human, then he's no longer God, and you may think if God is a God, then he's not a human. So it just cannot be the case that God can become a human, right, or something like that. Well, you know,
Yeah, I mean, you see, Muslims will have to solve the problem of God coming to the first heaven, right?
yeah,
Every what,
or interacting from a
right? I
bush,
mean,
or or,
yeah,
or communicating with the angel Gabriel.
right,
Um,
right.
I mean, but so if it's just that you're interacting with the world, or I'm not sure why that's an issue, because so we got a question here. So the logical problem of Trinity, logical problem of incarnation, the abomination of human sacrifice as payment, ritual cannibalism, corrupt scripture, and Father God eternally begetting a son.
All right. So, Martin, let me just read this comment. Salah, the link is open. If you want to join and talk about the things that we have talked about here, or maybe join and explain to us.
No, I just
Uh,
read it. I just read it. You didn't
oh, you
realize.
did? Okay.
Yeah, I just
No, but I'm
I
inviting him to join, and
okay.
if he wants to talk about it, then
Well, only one question, just one question and one
yeah,
response.
yeah. If you think, then please do join. And all right. So, shall we move on, or you wanted to finish your point? By the way, sorry.
I'll be very quick. I mean, the idea that God can't become a human, I don't see any logical issue in the sense that why can't God voluntarily choose to reserve his powers? Well, the argument might be that if God chooses to limit his powers, then God is limiting himself, and God is all powerful, and that characteristics can't be dispensed with. So you may think then an all powerful being that should be able to do anything and everything, in all logically possible things, right? And you might think then, shouldn't then God be able to become non-God, non-godly? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
the whole problem with this all powerful is a contradictory in itself, because you can have so many different contradictory statements in
mm,
itself. Basically, how would you? I mean, this question that's being always asked, right? Can God make a rock heavy enough that he can't lift it? I mean,
mm,
these are problems with all powerfulness. Basically, I mean, if somebody says no, it's logically contradictory. That's why uh, God can't do all those things that are logically contradictory. Then you're
mm,
limiting God to logical contradictions. Basically, your God is logically. I mean,
mm.
God should be able to exist and not exist at the same time. You don't know what that means, basically, because it's beyond your understanding. But God should be able to do that.
Maybe so, maybe
At least I
so.
think so. At least I think so. Right.
I mean, I understand what people mean by logically contradictory in the sense that they were talking about something that can't even happen, right? It's not
Yeah,
even
but
possible.
that's in their minds, right? From their understanding of the right. I mean, yeah, I agree. Then you'll say, I mean, the one response to that would be something like, uh, if if uh, if God doesn't follow our logic, then everything goes pretty much right, and then we can't understand anything. That's perhaps a good response to it, basically. So we are joined by Ahmed. Ahmed, you want to talk about the points we have discussed regarding this debate so far? By the
Yeah,
way,
I just
welcome.
wanted, yeah, thank you, thank you. I just wanted to address this very particular point of yours, which you were mentioning regarding all powerfulness.
All
So,
right.
are you, just one clear, quick question, and
Have
then
you
you
been
can
on our
clarify.
show before? By the way.
Yeah, I've been,
Uh,
no, 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 I haven't.
Okay, I'm just wondering. We had one Ahmed. What was? Oh, Sean. He was Sean. Sorry, not Ahmed. By the way, Madan, you remember, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Sean from
Go on,
Canada, right?
Ahmed. What did you want to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one clarification question. Do you believe that logical impossibilities are actually a thing in reality?
Logical impossibilities are a thing in reality. I think it appears to us maybe in our universe. From our perspective, yes, you're right. You can say that logical impossibilities are something that that helps us, understand the world better. But I mean, this is probably just because our thinking is limited. Maybe I can say that, right? But for God, which is beyond this physical universe and in the
I
realm
use
of
the word
metaphysics,
reality, not the universe.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you concede the fact that this is all that the reality is, then I would say yes.
So you think there's no reality outside universe then?
I don't know what it is. Basically, if you define it properly, then maybe we can talk about it.
Reality is essentially something that exists.
But that's a tautology, right?
Sorry, pardon?
Reality that exists outside.
So,
I don't know
Ahmed,
how.
Ahmed, what's your point with the question? So, when it comes for me, when it comes to logical possibilities, is that or logical impossibilities, all that kind of is just like conceive of a situation in which we can imagine concepts and fathom whether or
Hmm.
not they can exist in one particular way or another. And we think about it through, let's say, the laws of logic, law of non-contradiction. If there's, let's say, a triangle, it can't be a square. If a square, it can't be a triangle. But the way we've defined them, based on what a triangle is, the concept of a triangle and the concept of a square, they're different things, and therefore we say it's logically impossible. And we think, therefore, if something is logically impossible, then it's a very strong argument, even stronger than something that's physically impossible, because it means, if you think about it from a modal perspective, it means it cannot exist in all possible worlds. There can't be even another world out there where a square and a triangle can exist. Now, that's kind of the traditional way, and I kind of generally accept that. Yes, I understand the force of that. When you ask me specifically, let's say, do I think logical contradictions can exist? I would say generally, using my brain, no, I don't. However, I do know that there's
What do
been
you mean by
a
generally?
generally because there's different perspectives on it, right? So I don't have any completely
For
firm view.
example,
Sorry.
For example,
for
he's asking you.
example,
I think I agree with
Yeah.
Mahadin's take, and you can
Yeah.
have paraconsistent logic basically, and you can say that paraconsistent logic works in some different universe, not here in our universe, and not in our reality basically. But yeah, I'll let Mahadin finish his point. Sorry.
Yeah. Let me just try and give some examples maybe. So sometimes it might not, it may not just be because of the law of non-contradiction. It could be just because of our concepts. We get our concepts wrong, right? So certain things may appear to be logically contradictory, but later on we realize actually it's not logically contradictory. In that case, the law of non-contradiction is preserved, right? We're not violating the law of non-contradiction. We're not saying that there can be contradictions. We're just realizing that the concept itself, we understood it wrongly. So that doesn't straightforwardly answer your question. It's basically saying that
hmm.
we can be wrong to think certain things are logically contradictory when they're not, simply because our imaginations are limited. That's one way to think about it. Another way to think about it is, and this kind of goes beyond my
Let's take
domain.
wait a minute. Quickly to add, let's take a scenario where we understand the concepts.
All right, let me just finish what I'm saying. Let's think of another another way of doing it is think of in physics, for example, and I would have to feign a little bit of ignorance about how it works, etc. But popular physics knowledge, Stephen Weinberg, etc.
Weinberg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, he, for example, thinks that the idea that all triangles are up to 180 degrees only holds under particular geometries, right? And in fact, there are certain conditions within the universe. Had it been different, certain triangles wouldn't add up to 180 degrees. And now this goes beyond my brain, right? Now this is what some physicists are saying. So what we have here is a tension between our
Wait a minute, but yeah, wait a minute. But there's difference, if such a case existed that all some triangles didn't actually add up to 180 degrees, then actually our concept of triangle would have been different altogether. right?
That
So
might be the case.
it's from
Or
that
that might be the case.
perspective.
No,
Yeah,
that might be the case.
yeah.
My point is, it could be that exactly what you're saying, that under a different geometry, that uh, that is different simply because the concept of
So
the triangle, which is the
Madhav's
first thing.
point is it's not a universal rule. Basically, it
Yeah,
might hold true for this universe, but might
kind
be
of, kind of.
in a
My point
model.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, let me just finish. Let me just point. The point is there is controversy surrounding that, whether or not it actually is two separate geometries and two separate concepts of triangle, or whether it's the same concept. And
Hmm.
henceforth, although I generally agree that logical contradictions on everyday commonsensical level doesn't make sense to think of a logical contradiction, I do know, deferring to experts on and who are thoroughly thinking about these things, that there is a little bit of more of a debate on these things, and therefore I feign a little bit of ignorance as well. So that's my view on logical. Yeah, go on.
So you say that there's some difference of opinion among, let's say, the people who are learned. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
The law of non-contradiction is sometimes, it doesn't apply. Is that essentially what you're saying?
Um, what I'm saying is that, yeah, that's one view. One view. Some views say the law of contradiction is preserved, is just our concept of triangle is different, and then some other views that it's actually these are contradictions, but it's nonetheless true.
Well, that's a very strange position to hold. Which position of these do you hold to?
I don't have an opinion on this specific view. I don't know enough about it.
But you made the statement that when it comes to God, etc., all these questions, they are meaningless. For instance, the God
No,
can be
I
there,
think
even
you
though it
there
goes
is a
to the same.
distinction here. You misunderstood or misconstrued what was said. We only expose the possibilities, basically, right? And we didn't say we hold one of them to be more true than the other ones, basically, or more true than the other ones, right? So
Yeah,
by sheer exposing these possibilities, we are not adhering to one fact or the other, pretty much, right?
yeah. I mean, Philo
So,
entertained one possibility where it could very
Yeah,
well be that
I entertain the possibility
God
of
is
it
beyond
being.
the laws of logic and can make logical contradictions. I personally don't lean in that direction. I'm happy to talk about within the framework of logic, right? But that's because I'm a philosopher, right? I'm into philosophy, but I also know the downsides of philosophy, which is thinking about it from your armchair. There's a book by James Ladyman, a philosopher of science, called "Everything Must Go," and he showed that
Everything
a
was.
lot of, yeah, everything must go, and he showed that a lot of the concepts in philosophy, in these kind of thought experiments that we think of, just doesn't adhere to what's actually out there in reality, right? And some of these problems are a problem in our language, and it could very well be what we think of the law of non-contradiction isn't some sort of metaphysical rule. It's just a rule it's just a language issue in how we conceive of things, limited by our imagination. And that's what he makes the argument. I don't know whether he's right or wrong. He makes a compelling argument. You may want to look into it.
okay, but okay, fine. Okay, cool. That's all I wanted to confirm. Thank you for your time.
Ahmed, can I ask you one question before you leave?
Yeah, but I just have 6 more minutes.
All
Yeah,
right. Yeah.
go on.
Where are you calling from, by the way, if I may ask? One.
I'm from Pakistan.
Or you're from Pakistan? You originally from Pakistan, but your accent seems like you were born and brought up in maybe US or the
No,
Canadas, basically, right?
no, I live in Pakistan.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, all right, we'll let you go if you have to. If you have anything else to ask, maybe you can. And
No, you said you wanted to ask me something. Is that was the question you wanted to ask?
that was the
Where I
question, and
live?
I just also wanted to ask you, which one do you hold true? Do you think
I'm
that
a
there's no possible world where I mean laws of you know or paraconsistent logic may hold true? Do you think
I'm
there
not
is?
sure.
no, I don't consider this concept of infinite possibilities to be. I think this is absurd, and I think this is irrational, etc., etc. That's the view I hold to.
All right. All right.
What do you mean it's absurd? Infinite possibilities.
Let's say, do you hold an opinion that there is a there's a universe, okay, where a flying cuckoo exists, a flying cuckoo, sorry, a flying pink elephant exists?
No.
No, we don't hold that to be true, but we don't
No,
deny
no,
that
no, no.
possibility. I mean,
Is
we
this a
don't.
yeah, yeah?
Yeah,
Is this a possibility?
yeah.
So
If your question is that a
Yeah,
possibility? That's a very
Ahmed,
different
yeah,
question.
Ahmed,
Then
yeah.
Ahmed,
That's why I consider it absurd.
yeah, you might be conflating physical possibility with logical possibility. This is what I'm saying. Logical possibility doesn't mean anything other than the fact that I can imagine it as a coherent
No,
concept.
no,
So when
I'm
I
also referring to logical
yeah,
possibilities.
all it means no. All it means is a coherent concept without contradictions, right? So for example,
exactly.
even Muslims accept this. Even people like Hamza Zorses. I mean, I'm not saying you necessarily follow them, so you may disagree with them. I'm not sure, but people that we disagree with, we are agreement on this, that it's a concept without contradictions. It doesn't mean the concept exists as a real thing. It just means that it's conceptually clear. There's no flaw in the concept, right? For example, there's no flaw in the concept to think there's, what did you say, a pink unicorn? Whatever a unicorn is, there's no contradiction. But imagine a pink unicorn that is pink all over but green all over at the same time. Now that concept doesn't make sense. All we mean by logical contradiction then, and this is probably what I like to lean towards, is that it's just a clear, clean, non-corrupted concept. So when we say infinite possible worlds, we're not actually saying that there is infinite possible worlds out there physically. We just mean conceptually we can imagine an infinite different variety of worlds, right? And those could
We are thinking modally, basically, right?
yeah, modally. But
Yeah,
I'm not use words like modal. So all
Yeah.
that
to be honest, yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but to be honest, I just deem, because I'm not very much into philosophy, and I'm a very pretty much a layman. Okay, so from my perspective, these things are nothing but the results of overthinking over millennia. That's what that's what I would classify it as, because yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm sure you'll respect my opinion, but I'm a layman. I'm not into philosophy as much. I haven't studied it much,
So
but
you
that's how I view it.
you put that imagination for God as well. I mean, if you say that pink unicorn is probably an absurd concept, do you think a God, any
No, no,
flavor of God, is an
no, no.
absurd
What I will
concept as
say
well?
is, no, what I would say is that
Because
if someone wants
because
to hold that
the same
opinion, then
kind
I'm
of
fine with it. No problem.
yeah. No, it's a bit like the concept is a bit like imagine I don't know, you're saying you're from Pakistan, etc. But imagine if you were from Germany. Is that a coherent concept? Yeah. Is it
Yeah,
a
if
real?
yeah,
No, it's not because you're not, right? But it's a coherent concept. But if I say that you were from Pakistan and you were from Germany, you were born in Pakistan and you were born in Germany. Now that
hmm.
doesn't seem like a coherent concept. That's what we mean by concepts. So when I can think of infinite different concepts or infinite different worlds, I don't mean that these worlds actually exist. We're just trying to think about concepts that make sense as a starting point. Because if
But
it doesn't make sense,
I
then we can throw
understand
it.
that. But
Yeah.
yeah, just
Mm.
quickly to add on to that, why do you have to go out of this universe though? Just just stay in the universe and think of what you can in this universe. Why just do you need to go out and
I mean,
consider the possibility
that's
of
what
maybe, just quickly let me just quickly
that's
that
what
maybe there
philosophy
are
is
Yeah,
about,
other
right?
let me
universes.
finish.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
finish.
that's why I said that it's
I mean,
I
you do
deem
the
these things
armchair
to be just
thinking to come to
overthinking.
conclusions what is possible and what is not possible, basically. And you maybe I mean, from a very evidential perspective, you may not have got it right, but at least from a logical perspective, you can come up with
Yeah,
certain
I'll tell you why.
ideas, basically,
Yeah,
right?
Ahmed, I'll tell you why. Yeah, how else
Hmm.
would you refute in the way Daniel is in this video? I don't know if you've been following this video or how many Muslims do refute the Trinity if you don't think about the possibilities, right? When somebody says God is three persons and at the same time one person, let's say, somebody may say that's a contradiction. How could three things
Hmm.
be one? Right? What did I just do there? I just thought about a possibility. I did it all in my head. I thought about I thought about one. I tried to imagine: can there be a world where there is three persons and at the same time they're one person? And somebody may say that sounds like a contradiction. That's like a square having three sides. You know, it doesn't make sense. It's like 3 + 3 = 15. It's just like a mathematical error. Say three things are one.
But you will
So we already
I get your point.
can you see we're already thinking about possibilities. We have to think about these possibilities. Otherwise, we can't do theology or philosophy or make these arguments and understand actually Trinity is flawed, or actually no, Trinity is not flawed. We have to think about the possibilities.
But at the end of the day, would you agree with me that at the end of the day, no matter how much you roll your head about infinite universe, all these concepts which you actually frame your thoughts in, they are all at the end of the day based on this very universe. And essentially what you are doing is you are essentially trying to change, some things like in this universe and trying to consider it as a possibility. So the idea is that you're still stuck inside a box, which is this
Yeah,
universe, and
that is exactly.
you're trying to, yeah. So
Ahmed,
essentially it's kind of
you're
yeah, I understand the point, but for me it's overthinking.
Ahmed,
Yeah, I understand, I
almost.
respect your POV, no
No,
problem.
no, no, Ahmed, you're
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah,
right. You're almost,
I think your point is
yeah.
valid. Your point is valid.
Ahmed, you're almost already agreeing with the first objections that I was making. You're the one who came and said, "Do you think contradictions can happen?" And now you're saying pretty much what I was saying, which is that maybe this is just a problem in our imagination. Maybe the world
No,
can.
no,
You know? Can you see what I'm saying?
I'm not
Now you're
saying
saying
that. I'm
that
not
you're,
saying that.
you're stuck in a box. You're stuck in a box. The reality might
No,
be,
no, no, brother.
well,
You misunderstood me. What I'm saying essentially is that this thinking, like, the concept of, let's say, there might be another universe where the what I'm saying is this essentially what the very words you are thinking this in, right? The word universe, the word three, the word one. You're all
mm,
essentially borrowing it from this universe, right? So
yes,
essentially, no
yes,
matter what you do, okay, you're trying to, make variables out of this very universe and trying to apply
exactly.
it, which out of
Yeah.
the box,
But
which
we
essentially
are
for me is this
limited by
overthinking. At the end of the day, you cannot. Yeah, at the end of the day, you cannot go out of this box,
evidentially we are
even
limited
via
by
my
what we
imagination.
have, right?
Again, Ahmed,
Yeah,
all I can say is that
that's the
you're
point.
almost agreeing with everything that I said before, which is that these could just be an issue with our human understanding of concepts and our misunderstanding of how they may apply in a variety of different ways, particularly those areas of the world we've not seen yet. When we think about possible worlds, we're thinking, is it possible? Is it possible or is it impossible? And can we say that this is impossible? But if you're saying now, if you're agreeing with me, which is that maybe these concepts and ideas are just finite and part of our flawed imagination, maybe we're reusing, hijacking terms and ideas that we've taken from our limited understandings, and it may differ, which is now what you're saying, because we're using the word universe, using the word time, and you're literally almost subscribing to what I was saying before, which is what people like James Ladyman, in his book, Everything Must Go, Philosopher of Science, has been arguing, which is that our armchair reasoning, yeah, overthinking, sitting down and thinking with a coffee in our hand, going, oh, what's possible, not possible, is useless. This is the point of view that I was trying to shed to you just before. So, in
No,
which
no,
case, you'll have to say,
I
maybe our understanding of contradictions even can differ because
no,
we're
no,
using,
no, no.
right?
This is the problem because you say, because some things these are set in stone. For instance, let's say if you put your hand in the fire, it will burn. Okay, you
Mm.
cannot change that. And now, if you try to say and consider the possibility, let's say maybe, you know, our understanding of fire is wrong. Maybe it's not what it's burning. So that's essentially what I'm saying. I'm not saying
Mm.
it's flawed. I'm saying it's kind of an overthinking and an overkill to think about these stuff. That's all I'm saying, and I'm coming from a pretty much layman
I think the
perspective
problem,
who
I think
who
I
understand.
understand.
Yeah,
I see the
brother.
problem
Pretty
in
much,
your
I
understanding. I
really need
think
to
you're
go.
trying to give
Yeah.
examples to things that when we are talking about metaphysical possibilities, we are using this language, which probably is not appropriate. The kind of examples that you're giving are from the physical world, and where they make pretty much all the sense, and we agree with you there. But for topics that we are dealing here, Tawhid or Trinity, these are concepts of the metaphysical nature. And here we are allowed to take a leap into the concepts, basically, philosophical concepts
I
and
don't. Yeah,
possibilities.
I,
Right.
I'd also say, Ahmed, if you're saying that these concepts may differ, which is kind of what we were saying before you came on as well. I mean, it could very well be that like you said, fire may just be different. We may be applying our human understandings of fire or what we think is fire, but we're just overthinking by thinking fire has to conform to our understanding of fire. If you do go down that route, I don't know what your views are on the Trinity, but you have given them a pass to Christians because they can make the argument that their understanding of our understandings of person, three, number three may differ, and
no,
therefore the
brother,
Trinity.
what I'm saying is that those actually do this. For me personally, I don't do this stuff altogether. I avoid it. For me, it's just overthinking and over a kind of overkill. That's what I'm saying. Because essentially, if you go down this route, essentially you're pretty much giving a chance for every what I would classify as quote unquote absurd theology to come in and make a case. But that's not
All right,
how
let me
we
ask
all
you,
base our reality on.
what is your take
But
on?
brother,
Sorry, Ahmed.
I'm a Muslim.
Let me just
I'm a
ask you, where do
Muslim.
you stand on Trinity versus Tawhid? Do you deny
I
both?
do. I'm a Muslim, bro. I'm a Muslim.
You're Muslim, right? And
Yeah.
so, can somebody say that your concept is as absurd as somebody else's, or Trinity, basically?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone can say anything he wants, bro.
Right, right. So then, yes, I mean, there you go. I
But
mean,
I
for you,
might.
from your perspective, it seems absurd. Somebody might call your conception as absurd as well, right? And that's what we are dealing
Yeah.
with over here.
Someone can. That's his right. No problem. I don't deny his right to say that. I mean, okay. I don't deny that. Similarly, the
Mm.
same person cannot deny my right to classify Trinity as an absurd belief.
Right, and we
Yeah.
can, we are,
I got no problem with it.
yeah, we are entitled to criticize both of you, right? The Trinitarians versus Tawidians, basically.
Yeah. Sure. No
Yeah.
problem. You guys can do that, of course. I never even once criticized you that why are you here criticizing our beliefs. I never ever once did that. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for
But
your
do you
time, bro.
think your yeah, but do you think your belief holds logically, basically? Is that that's the question, right? And that's one of the problems that I find in your uh, the kind of things you mentioned, basically. You
Yeah,
want us to, yeah,
Ahmed,
go ahead,
yeah,
Martin.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, because Ahmed, I'm pretty sure in the end, if you do end up discussing theology, you're going to end up using logic. But if so, I don't see how. I'm a little bit confused about how you came along and asked, "Do you think logical contradictions can happen?" And you said it's absurd if it can, and now you're going the opposite direction. It seems like it, and and now you're saying that you can abandon it altogether, like it's a useless conversation. But you can't escape logic. You
No,
have to talk.
no,
You
no,
know?
no. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about very specifically about this
Yeah.
kind of like a thing, I was very particularly referring to this concept, to delving this concept of infinite possibilities of, let's say, in terms of metaphysics. I was just referring to that
Hmm.
particular thing. I appreciate logic. I think
Okay.
logic is
Yeah.
a necessary thing to reach to conclusions. Okay,
I think
to reach
what
for
you
reaching truth. Right.
sorry to interject you, basically, Ahmed. So what you're not realizing is that your concept of God is one of those infinite possibilities, basically, and same is true with
For
Trinitarians as
you,
well. That-
from your perspective.
no, it's universally. That's what your problem is, right? That's what your problem, because it's one of those same metaphysical possibilities that you consider to be true, right? And
No,
Trinitarians
it's a
consider to be
possibility
separately true.
from your POV. For instance,
See, yeah,
I am talking to you right
that's
now. Is this a possibility?
no. This is there are tangible evidences for that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So yeah,
But
I understand that. But the
when you when
same
you
way,
talk
there's
of your
much
God, let's say
evidences for
specifically,
us in terms of metaphysical, to consider that as truth, not just as a
Ahmed,
possibility. So it's just from your
all right,
perspective.
let's listen to one. Basically, let's listen to one. What is that one strong proof that is not gobbledygook, basically?
Yeah, for me personally, it's I will personally
No,
argue is
you
that
can't say
this.
personally. No, you can't say personally. You have said
Are you telling
objectively.
me to? Are you telling me
No,
that I need to convince you
no,
of
no.
something?
That's what. No,
Then
you,
why? Yeah, for me personally, the best evidence for the existence of God is. By the way, are you guys an atheist or what are you?
yeah, yeah.
okay.
Just
I think,
just
yeah, you
quick.
can consider us basically weak atheists. You can say. Oh,
Yeah.
Madin's probably
So
Madin will, yeah, say for himself. But go
Well,
yeah,
ahead.
for me personally, that I don't need to convince anyone for the existence of God. Why? Because we have studies showing that every human being, human child, has is innately born with believing in God. So essentially, it's you guys who are going out of your way to rebut your natural disposition, I would argue. And we have got studies to prove that. For instance, there was a study
All right,
done by
cite one
just
study. Give a reference
So,
to that one
yeah,
study.
I'm born. Yeah. So there was
is
a
it
study
Justin
done by
Barrett?
Justin L. Barrett.
Justin
Yeah,
Barrett study.
Justin
Justin
L. Barrett
Barrett's
one.
study is
So
proven
who did a
wrong by
stream?
John Shook,
Yeah, Bond.
basically.
Yeah, we,
This
Have you
is
read
wait a minute.
John
Yeah,
Shook?
yeah. I have read
Have
the
you read John
I
Shook's
have read
rebuttal on it?
the study.
No,
No,
I'm not talking
I
about
haven't read the
Justin
rebuttal
Barrett's
on.
study.
So
First thing first,
there's
Justin
not just
Barrett's
one
study
study,
doesn't talk about
and
God,
just quickly
right?
let
First thing.
me quote the studies, and then you can rebut. I understand that
No,
there
I'm
might be
saying
rebuttals here
know
and
that
there. I
study.
haven't read all, gone all through them. So essentially, and there was another author, another researcher, and it was Olivia Patricia. She did the same study on Japanese kids, essentially.
yeah.
So
Right.
there were 2-3 studies. For me personally, this is enough evidence to prove, and this also goes in lines with a prophetic narrations in Islam, which we classify call as hadith, which essentially said that Prophet upon whom be peace, he said that every human child is born submitting his will to one true God, and that's essentially it. So that's for me personally enough evidence
Hmm.
to for the existence of God. You guys are more than welcome to deny
Yeah.
that. I'm not here to convince anyone, because
Okay.
I'm not
So,
kind of a
Yeah,
debater
you
stuff.
cited a
so
flawed
Ahmed,
study, and that's why we need to point it out, basically.
yeah,
The
Ahmed.
problems
So
in
just
the study,
Yeah,
basically, yeah.
no
I mean,
problem, no
so we
problem.
just kind of shifted from philosophy to science a little bit there.
Yeah.
It's all right. I mean, I don't know how it's okay. It's more entertaining maybe for
It's
the viewers.
perfectly fine, by the way,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's all good. We'll just scrap the old conversation. It's getting a bit boring maybe. But we actually did a stream on this, not exactly specifically about this, but Daniel Haqiqatjou himself had mentioned in the debate with Matt Dillahunt these innate, inherent, biological, sometimes even somebody may say evolutionary, hardwired, instinctual beliefs that little children have prior to socialization, prior to information transfer. And he called it, even Hamza Zursis in 2015, 2014, 2013 period had made this argument case for fitrah, innate fitrah. The children are born with instincts towards monotheism or God or a creator or something like that, and making loads of arguments that people born in different countries also without any sort of religious exposure, they also believe in God, believe in a deity, etc. And he also cites Justin Barrett from the University of Oxford, I think it was from the University of Oxford, and
Yeah, it
Olivera
was.
Petrovich. Yeah, Olivera Petrovich. And if you want to see some videos on that, he had a discussion with somebody called Essence of Thought in 2014, 2015, something like that. Video debates about it, and the academic credibility of some of those studies are highly questionable in the sense that they're not even studies. They were difficult to find and cite and reference properly, etc. Like Olivera Petrovich was talking about a forthcoming study, and it was a single study or wasn't properly replicated, etc., and so on. And Justin Barrett's study
Madan,
as
can I
well.
interrupt you for a second? Yeah. Ahmed, if you get a chance, we have talked about this argument from intuition that Daniel Haqiqatjou uses. So you see that we have 3 different videos of debate between Matt Dillahunty and Daniel Haqiqatjou. So one on the extreme right on your screen is the one where we talk about this study, and we point out flaws in it, basically. Okay. Sorry,
Mm.
Madan, carry on.
Sure,
Yeah.
I will surely check it out. No problem.
Yeah.
Thanks
If
for yeah.
if you read Justin Barrett, I'm pretty sure. I'm not assuming anything. I'm just saying I don't know how much you've read it. You probably read it all. I don't know, so I don't want to misunderstand how much you know already. But when I read Justin Barrett's study, I didn't get that same feeling. In fact, Justin Barrett didn't say that. He in fact has a video saying that that it wasn't about monotheism or it isn't about God at all. It was, if I can recall, that children are more likely to believe in dualism, souls, more likely to believe that there was
A father
in,
figure,
no,
higher
not even a
father.
father figure, no father figure, not even a father figure. more likely to believe that there would be a creator behind nature, and children are more likely to infer these things when suggested to them, right? At a young age, maybe 2-3 years old, right? So 2-3 years old, that children are likely to think they have souls, likely to think that there's a creator behind maybe the rock, the tree, etc. And so one of the issues with the study is that it's not an inherent or innate belief that children have in monotheism or God, right? It's creator, right? They think reflexively when they see a pencil that somebody created the pencil. But this could be a belief like in aliens. There could be a belief in a limited gods, finite gods. It could be like Hinduism, like polytheism. It doesn't get to that. So to the fitna concept, where children are born in inherently believing in one God, being
innate belief, basically, right?
omnipotent, omnibenevolent being. That's one flaw. Let me just quickly go through the flaws of it. And you can write them down if you want.
Yeah, so essentially, let me quickly, because I was just reading the study just the day before yesterday. Yeah. So essentially, these all points you mentioned, he very, he pointed out that all these children, they had some essentially common, what do we call, traits, what they would ascribe to God, which were omnipotence, omniscience, and morally goodness. These were the points he was saying, that all these children, they were attributing to God, and he was essentially talking about all the children under question in the study.
When was
So
that?
yeah,
What
you was, yeah, but this is I'm referring. Which study are you referring to? Because there are two of them. I'm referring to the one which is named as Born Believers.
All right, you forward me that and we'll talk about it, because I don't recall anything like that. So we're talking about his paper,
so
around 2013, between 2013 and 2016, right?
Yeah, this is
so
here.
I think it was an earlier paper, 2008 or something like that. I think it's an older paper, maybe. That's what I remember. Justin Barrett paper. But Ahmed, why that study is flawed. Let me tell you, because it only inquired that study in the known world. Basically, there are tribes, that they don't have any concept of God, not from childhood, not from as a grown-up adults. You know that, right?
Do you have studies confirming it?
Yes. If you talk about the Andaman Nicobar tribe, they have no concept of God.
No.
There are a couple of tribes in
What
Bolivia.
I'm essentially saying is,
You can't have.
Do you have studies proving that those children, they were brought up?
Yeah, but
Ahmed, when they were being brought up, they had no concept of
right? That's
that
irrelevant.
particular.
You can't have a.
That is very relevant, because essentially what you were saying is that maybe the elders they were socialized into believing, just the case which you were guys
That's a
pointing out to me.
possibility. I
Maybe they were
agree.
socialized. So yeah,
Ahmed, Justin Barrett's study has the same flaw.
I'm listening.
Justin Barrett's study has. It doesn't control for education, socialization, literature. They're 3 years old. They're grown up. They're of the age.
Their social environment is different, right? I mean,
No.
The problems you're citing can be held. Justin Barrett can be held accountable for the same problems. Basically, he's picking and choosing from the social environment.
No. Wait a minute. No, I'm. Very particularly, wait a minute, brother Mahden. Wait a minute. I sorry if I mispronounce it. So I'm not sure which study are you guys referring to, because the one I'm referring to are pretty much, I don't know where are you even getting this from, because he pretty much refused these points which are you mentioning right now. The study I'm referring to is named as Born Believers, and in this very study he refers to all these kind of what should I call, objections you were raising, like maybe they were after socializing. He actually addresses them, and I'm not sure which study are you guys referring to. Maybe it's a different study altogether. Wallahu alam.
Maybe we're talking about two different studies. But Philo, pull out the studies on this if you can, some of them, and we can just possibly look through some of it live.
Brother, I told you I had 6 minutes, but I really got to go. It's about 1:40 a.m. on my side. I need to
Ahmed,
sleep.
the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
thing is, Justin. So there's a series of objections that I'm making about this. The other thing is, it's not replicated. Justin Barrett's study is not replicated properly. Second, there is no consensus firmly within psychology that there is a divine God belief amongst children. It is not mainstream. So Justin Barrett's study is fringe. John Shook did a literature review showing that the vast majority of studies contradicts Justin Barrett's study, right? John Shook.
Yeah,
John Shook.
I think when next time when you come, I think what you should do is you should give exact paper that you're talking about. Basically, post a link over here, right, in the comment section, so that everybody can see it, right? Because the study
Yeah,
that
it's
we have gone through, and you talked about Justin Barrett's study. I think that study took place probably something like 2011 or 2008, something like that. I think maybe a little bit
Far as I
later.
know, look, Ahmed, you might
no.
be
If
right.
you actually, yeah, this born believer is essentially called born believers, and if you just type it, it
I
will
see
come
that,
out.
read
It's
that.
not just
Yeah, but Philo, pull out Born Believer. I would like to know if there's been something I missed.
yeah. So if you read this very kind of a preface thing, where we have kind of a comments from different people who actually read this book. For instance, I have here Robert A. Emmons, a professor of psychology, University of California, and he says that a fascinating and readable account of why religious beliefs are perfectly normal and virtually universal. In an age of atheism, this book will challenge widespread assumptions that non-belief
This is
is
not
default and to
Ahmed.
wait a minute, wait. No, I
Ahmed,
just quickly want to quote because this
no.
study is oh,
Because
I
you can find quotes everywhere. You can
no
pick
no
one.
I'm not
No
no
problem.
I'm not doing that.
Is there a consensus?
What I'm
Is
doing
there a
right now
consensus?
is that
Is there a
wait a minute,
consensus? I don't care about
wait a
individual.
minute.
I don't care about
I
individual.
understand that I understand that, no problem.
Listen, look,
Just let me
if I
read
get a
this.
scholar, if I get a
So
scholar,
what
if I
essentially I'm saying, brother Mehdan, please let
Ahmed,
me complete the sentence.
Ahmed,
Please
give me
let
one
me
second.
complete the sentence.
Yeah, let me just finish first. If I get a scholar of Islam that agrees with the Hanafi school, or a scholar of Islam that agrees with one of the Shia schools, it doesn't mean anything. What's the consensus? What is the consensus among the vast majority of the Islamic jurisprudence? That's how we kind of, it's similar to science. Let's say if 2% of biologists think evolution didn't occur, but 98%, or let's say not even evolution, let's say it's climate science. We go by consensus and we go by the vast majority of studies. John Shook, in his paper, summarized the literature on this. So this is why I don't really care about individual scientists. The literature on this does not confirm that there are innate beliefs in God from the moment you're born, or at two or three. That can be that there's contradictory studies, there's systematic failings in some studies, and flaws in certain other studies. I agree there are people who believe, individual psychologists who you can quote. Perhaps sometimes you can misquote, but I'll grant it to you that you're not misquoting them. But that's the point. The vast majority of psychology isn't doing that. If you open a psychology textbook today, it's not a known, firmly well-known, grounded fact like evolution, like like your retina, in biology, like what your brain does. You have a right hemisphere. There's not like a fact like that. Whatever it is, it's something that's been conversed, talked about. Some people say it is there. Most studies don't suggest it, and that's so on. That is what I'm going to be going on, right?
Hmm.
Why would I look at the
Okay.
fringe science?
So I essentially got the point. So what I was trying to do here is that what I was trying to do here is that the study I was referring to, I was accurately representing his position. That was
Yeah.
essentially what I was trying to do by quoting the scientist. I never ever meant to actually put the
Right, and
scientist as
I'm
an authority
what
here.
we are saying. What we are saying is that those
No, I
studies
understand
have
that,
been
brother. That
disapproved
those studies are
already, right? The
disapproved.
one
Yeah, I
paper
understand that.
that's on the screen, the one paper that's on the screen is by John Shook, and he presents the problems that are there in the paper that was submitted by Justin Barrett in 2012, basically Born to be Believers or something like that, whatever the title of that
Yeah. This
paper
this
was.
is the one I was referring to.
Right.
So there
Okay.
were
So
two. This
John Shook.
one was Born
So
Believers, and other one was named as cognitive science, religion, and yeah.
yeah, but the
This was
problem is
also
that
by Justin Barrett.
the whole psychology community agrees that these are inconclusive, basically, and then their claims are over what do you call um,
glamorized.
Yeah, over
Why
glamorized,
do
basically.
yeah, Philo, let's look at Justin Barrett's Born Believers paper. Let's just look at that one because I don't recall
Yeah,
anything about
I
that.
think that
Maybe
paper
I'm
is
wrong.
not out in public. Maybe I don't know. It's not out for public viewing. I think I
Is
tried
it
to
Yeah,
not?
find it.
it's difficult to find
It's a
out,
research
and
paper, so I
it
can't
took me lots
get
of
hold of
effort.
it.
Hmm.
You got to buy it, but yeah, there are some methods where you can receive it. So yeah, I essentially got it from one of those methods. But yeah, so that's essentially what I was trying to do. So pretty much, I'm not here to, kind of you, if you guys misunderstood me, I'm not here, I'm not the person who debates a lot. No, I'm pretty much not into that kind of stuff. I just wanted to ask a question, and that's all I was here trying to do. So yeah, and the videos you referred me, I'm definitely gonna watch them. I'm gonna read the study which you're recommending me right now. Yeah, I will do that, no problem. I'm always open to learn and improvise. So that's essentially it.
But
All
why
right,
don't
If
you,
sure,
if
no
you
Ahmed,
guys
problem,
allow me.
no problem. You're welcome
what,
to drop by any other time if you
yeah.
want.
Ahmed, why don't you
Yeah.
share the paper that you've got then? Because I would like to read it, update my knowledge on it.
Yeah, so essentially there's a I'm gonna tell you the method. So there's a website called a Z library, okay? You just Google it, go to
Hmm.
the second or third, like make an account in this. So that website actually has, quite lots of stuff. I will
Can you
call
not send it
call
to
it
us on
gem.
an email? So you've got our email. Philo, can you give him her email?
Yeah,
Do you
I
have
will
the
I
PDF?
can send it.
Do you have the PDF
Yeah,
of
yeah,
that
I,
paper?
yeah, I have it.
Okay,
I have
okay.
it.
What
I
I'm
have it.
doing is our send it to our channel email basically.
Just type it right here. I'm gonna do it right now. Just do it in the chat, private chat.
Okay, yes, it's there.
Mm. The
So the final objection that I would say, and there's more than one objection. There's methodological problems in the study as well that John Shrook has raised, but you can read that later. What those methodological problems are. I'm sure Barrett does. Like every author of every study wants to defend their study, so obviously Barrett is going to have certain objections, etc. But you can read into those. But the other thing that I would say is that in the way Barrett defines natural here, he doesn't mean that there's part of the brain that contains like some extrasensory perception capability. How he defines natural is that the child's mind finds it easy to accept certain beliefs and then less likely to get rid of them even after strong education. That's how he kind of defines it.
no.
Like, yeah,
So are you
that,
saying Justin says this is this what you're saying right now?
yeah.
The child. No, that's why I presented you the code so that I was accurately representing the paper. That's why I was doing it. But yeah, you can read it for yourself. I think I sent it to you guys.
Yeah, I will read that paper, but I'm going off what I know already beyond what you've because I asked you to share
But
it now live. Or
yeah, I did right now.
Yeah.
It's there on your side.
Okay, Philo, if you want to open it now, I mean, if you got the time, if Ahmed has the time, I don't know. Whilst I just
No,
say,
I definitely don't have the time because I got to sleep. I told
yeah,
you I just only had 6 minutes, but I it took
yeah,
longer than that. But yeah,
yeah.
I did send it to you. It's I sent a PDF. It's from
Okay, all
it's
right. We'll,
yeah.
we'll explore that later then. Maybe even on
Yeah,
this.
maybe you can drop by some other times. There are many other problems with that. He just took a sample from like today's times. What about the past billions of people who have gone by? I mean, it's just. I think it doesn't
It's not
add up.
replicated. Yeah,
Basically,
it's not well replicated because these are
it's not well
individuals.
replicated. I mean, this is just like one uh, very thin theory that's not backed up by substantive evidence.
Yeah,
Basically, is what I would say.
it's not. It's
Hmm.
not like but basically, Ahmed, he's not conducted a cross-cultural study or a twin study. He's not raised two twins, one twin in one country and another country or an island. These are people segmented and embedded within society, their friends, the family, media. It's very, very hard to control and ensure as healthy scientific experiment where we isolate the variable of socialization and say, look, socialization is not impacting the child
Yeah,
at all.
exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
but the last thing that I wanted to say
That's
that
why yeah, that's why he pretty much included atheistic households as well. That was the point for doing all that.
yeah, but
He cites
atheist.
No, but
many atheistic
atheistic
example with
household does
the
not
kids.
mean that
Wait a
you
minute,
would
wait a minute.
just No,
Yeah,
so
wait a minute. So
it
those
matters
children,
because
wait
atheistic
a minute, wait a minute.
household
Just
doesn't mean
quickly,
that
just
they don't
let
mingle
me
up with other kids, right?
let me complete the sentence, mate. Please, please be
Sure.
courteous with me.
Sorry. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
essentially, that's why he included atheistic households, not children very old, not children very young, but barely there. Let's say he cites many example, one 3.5 years old, one 4 years old. So he cites many example, not going to school, not open to any. So he cites many example. He provides various reasons, to say that why these children are pre-socializing, not post-socializing. So yeah,
Mm.
that's essentially pretty much it. If you read it, because we are
So
essentially, I think,
so
referring
so
to
these
different
kids
papers
were
altogether.
shut down from any ties from the outside world. Basically, they couldn't watch TV, they couldn't go online, they couldn't watch
It's not a
anything.
yeah, it's not a
Just they were
strong
born,
parental
just
control.
they were
That's the thing.
born and shut
Yeah,
down, closed
a
houses.
strong
They could see outside street kids, other kids,
yeah.
everything. Is
If
that true? Is that how he conducted? I'm asking you. I'm
uh,
asking you
I,
basically because there is a big flaw. I hope you see it. Basically, I mean,
no, no, I
right
think the
there,
flow
out
is that
there in the
what you are demanding is no
because it's
one will ever be
impossible
able
to
to
cut
conduct
off
a
from
study
the
like this.
social.
No,
I
no, they do.
understand that.
They do. They do. No, no, no. So I think this the standard that Philo is arguing for it
No,
might be
it's
too
required,
high, but
Madan, but
what?
it's required. It's required for
Yeah,
the
yeah,
study because the kind of the claim that is there
yeah.
is it
You may say
requires
for the
that
type
kind
of
of a
claim, yeah.
study.
Given the gravity of the claim, given that it's kind of groundbreaking that you have innate belief in God, right? It's you would need a bit stronger evidence, but we do that. That's why we have twin studies where we try to control your innate environment, where biology is the same, but the environment changes, and we look at cross-cultural studies where it's highly unlikely. So it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be certain. We're talking about highly unlikely. So it's a highly unlikely that for example, people in Republic of Congo or Aborigines who have been or any other tribe that's been isolated for 1,000 years, right? That they would be impacted by MTV. It doesn't have to be certain. It has to be highly unlikely. And if we go there and we see that there are similar music tastes, we can say that it's pretty much innate, right? If they dance like us, they move like us, they like certain types of songs, then we may say certain type of melodies are innate, humans like innately. It's highly likely. But I don't think Justin Barrett's study makes that kind of highly likelihood threshold. Reason being, these are households within mixed communities, and therefore
Hmm.
it's not that powerful. But what I remember about the study is that he didn't even say that there's an innate belief. It's just that children find it intuitively easier to grasp a story where that a creator created the universe or the creator created trees, and it feels more intuitive than a more complex explanation.
This is the very reason I coded, that kind of a code to say that I was accurately representing the position. And this is definitely not what he was saying in the study. And yeah, I send the study to you. You guys can read it for yourself, and then you guys can discuss it. No problem. I will jump in here another time. I really got to go right now. So take care. Good night, I guess.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Good night. Bye bye.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye bye.
drop by some other time whenever you get a chance.
Sure.
All right. Bye bye.
I mean, there's
All
one
right. Yeah.
last
I
thing.
mean, see, Madan, why I'm saying that study requires serious scrutiny, basically, because you cannot, and we live in a society where some information or the other is going to filter through, and kids'
Mm,
minds are really sharp. I
mm,
mean, within 1 year, I have seen so many kids by the age of 1 year, they'll understand language very well, pretty much. I mean, it's
mhm.
not unheard of, basically, right?
Yeah.
By 1.5 year, they'll start doing things that they see their, elders do, or on TV or whatever, right?
Mm,
And so it's something, you're talking about a study which talks to children who are age of 3, 4, right?
mm.
Which is well beyond the age when
Yeah.
they are clean slates. Pretty much, they have been heavily affected by the environment
Mm,
already. I mean, it's highly unlikely. I mean, otherwise, I mean, had that study been, really groundbreaking, we would have all heard of it. There would have been really, you know, everybody would have been going really gaga about it, pretty much. Not that
Yeah,
not.
I know. But
Yeah.
I mean, I would really like to look at what the guy was saying about the study, because I don't remember anything like what he was saying. I don't remember it being is monotheism. I think that may have been an interpretation that Barrett Barrett might want to have made, because he himself is a theist. Yeah, and maybe that he wanted to support that like that, but not
Yeah,
from the.
yeah, maybe that's a possibility. Let's see what the study says, what the variables were, what the parameters were, what the
Yes,
environment was, how he
yes.
conducted the study, I- that's the thing basically. It's yeah. I have the paper. Ahmed sent me the paper,
Mm.
and what we can do is I'll send it to you,
Okay.
and maybe we can have a special stream talking about that study basically.
Yeah,
What do you
do
think?
that. We can do that.
Maybe I think that'll be a good idea. I think let's
Absolutely.
just do that stream alone, that paper alone, basically. Just go through
Yeah.
it thoroughly, and you know,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, also the last point that I wanted to say to Ahmed, that if he's listening still, is that simply that, and because I couldn't finish it, I couldn't finish the point, and I guess we have to
I
abandon.
think where you're getting, yeah, I know where you're getting at, but yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Sorry, what? What do you think I'm getting at?
I thought you were getting at, even if there is an intuition, that doesn't
Yeah,
make it
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Probably, yeah. That's
Oh yeah, but like I said, Justin Barrett doesn't describe it as a natural impulse. In the sense that there's this like hearing or audio or taste that is just natural. You just or the belief in your consciousness is just there. Like there's this thing in your brain that senses God. It's more like children. He defines it like children find it easy finds it easier to accept certain beliefs about creation than other ways of thinking. Children find it easier to believe that we contain a soul than that we don't contain a soul. Easier. And if you think about it like that, then it's not surprising. Let's ignore everything that we said about socialization for a minute. It's not surprising that the child's brain will naturally, even biologically, find it easier. Of course they would, right? You'll find it easier to, for example, the theory of relativity is very counterintuitive. On the other hand, absolute Newtonian time is very intuitive, right?
exactly, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, whatever that a
Yeah.
simple concept might be very easier to pour through your brain, basically, in a sense.
Yes. And if that's all we mean by natural, which is that it's easier to accept and understand, and you latch onto it for that reason, and in that, so it means natural in that sense, then it's not natural in the same Fitrah sense, right? It's that a mind, when it's developed enough, when it's exposed to certain concepts, it finds certain beliefs easier to accept. And I grant that maybe that can be a possibility, right? It doesn't mean it's proven Fitrah in a monotheistic, all-powerful God, which I know Ahmed was saying that it does. But I really don't. I doubt Barrett's study says anything about that, because I know in a video he literally says that this is compatible with polytheism. He made a video on this, right? So unless he's changed his mind completely, I'm
Yeah,
surprised.
I think it's better to go through that paper and maybe just review that paper sometime in our
Mm.
future stream. Basically, that'll be the justice to our conversation today. Basically,
Yeah, and as Ahmed may, I don't know if he's still listening to it. He may listen to it later. The whole point, what I'm going with relativity and stuff like that, is that certain things that are easier to understand for a child's mind can be nonetheless false. And certain things that are hard to understand and accept for a child mind can be nonetheless true. If
exactly,
anything, show that.
exactly.
Yeah. So if anything, it shows that why superstitious beliefs or simpleton or intuitive or easy to understand explanations where like there's a creator creates a tree instead of the tree growing through evolution, or stars, a person put the star there, drew it into a picture like an artist came and created the star by drawing it, is easier to accept for a child than star formation, the stages of star formation from a red
I
giant.
think, Madan, we already discussed that why intuition is probably a wrong way or not a
Mhm.
proper way to come to the conclusions about the reality, basically, because we have our intuitions wrong too many times, basically.
Mhm.
And what does innate intuition mean anyways, basically? Because even philosophers have disagreed over what basically is intuition, basically.
Mhm.
Is it a hunch feeling? Is it something, from your as you're born? How do you even define it, basically? That's the problem, basically.
Mhm.
So I think we did talk about all these problems in our review of Daniel Haqiqatjou versus Matt Delahanty
Yes.
debate, basically.
I'm
So
just,
it's
I'm
I
just,
mean, even if we
yes.
granted this is given that we granted Ahmed what he's saying, and Justin
Mhm.
Barrett's study shows that the
Yeah.
intuition about that they had an intuition about a single God as a deity or whatever, right? I think that's a stretch, because from what I had read, and probably you and Kelly and I, all of us read, that's not
Mm.
what the conclusion Justin Barrett was making. But it's better to be 100% sure, right? So
Yes. Yes. I'm fairly certain that's not the conclusion Barrett
yeah,
studied.
I mean, that's what I remember as well, but it was quite some time back. So just, I mean,
Mhm. Yeah, that's
anyway.
right. Well,
So, so
him as a Muslim, he may look at it and go, "This confirms the fitrah." But even if it went down that route, you don't have to think like that. You can think this confirms why human beings being so prominent and universal. Like we're granting the premises, his premises for now, granting the assumption that this is actually a natural instinct or reflex or innate belief. It explains why, for example, why we were so hell bent on creating this many religions, right? In order to get to show, because again, something innate doesn't necessarily mean it's true. There's 150 cognitive biases that are innate. You know,
exactly,
talk
yeah,
about it, and we talked about the fact that our intuitive understanding of time is wrong compared to the reality of time. So, how do we cross that bridge? Well, you can't just say it's innate, therefore it's true. So, what Ahmed was trying to do was trying to show that it consistent with the how did the Quran predict it? He's trying to make it true that way. Look, oh, we have an innate belief, and it says in the Quran as well. Well, guess what? Many religions have said that belief in God is innate. So it doesn't prove, the Quran on its own, because
exactly,
then it
yeah,
proves every other one. But it's not surprising if we think it's universal. Then of course, because another interpretation could be that if it is innate and it's throughout the human population, right? Then of course it will end up in the literature that humans create, aka religions, right? Because it's innate, right?
right,
So
right.
why would it mean? Why should we be surprised that the Quran says, even kids believe in God?
The Fitrah, the
If
concept of Fitrah, right? I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
if
it's
it's intuitively known by every human being in many different populations, and we kind of understand it, and we've grown up with it, right, and so on and so on and so on, that this is natural, we shouldn't be too surprised.
right.
Except,
It's fairly obvious at that point. Everybody realizes that probably.
mm,
Yeah, I think we should do a stream on this topic, basically, right?
I think we may need to abandon the project that we were set to undertake today, because
Yeah, I think what we'll do is, since we have a few more minutes to 2 hours, maybe what we'll do is ask somebody else if they want to join. I
mm,
think I already made. Okay, I highlighted that by mistake. I think we have the link on, so anybody wants to drop by and have a conversation for a few minutes, maybe 10-15 minutes or so. We can take a few callers, and then we'll probably finish the stream for this time. We'll also do probably we'll carry on with this review, Mahadan, maybe next stream or so, sometime whenever we get a chance,
uh-huh,
and also do the Justin Barrett one. I think that seems like an important one, because a lot of the, even Sean, you remember, he was a
mm,
big fan of that study, right? So I think I see correlation between those who take upon that study to be, uh, making them lean towards their version of religion,
mm.
right? They are coming from Daniel Haqiqatjou's background, pretty much, I think, right? This is
Mm,
the second time we are again discussing Daniel Haqiqatjou, right? And the
mm.
guy who drops by, so he probably is, uh, a student, not a student, but a follower of Daniel Haqiqatjou, probably,
Possibly, possibly.
right? Because even Sean, last time we spoke to, he was a follower of Daniel, right? So that's a
Yeah.
possibility. That's my hunch, by the way. But yeah, no concrete, just a kind of a correlation that I'm. Alicia, ex-Muslim, that debate just proved that all Abrahamic faiths are similar when it comes to dogma. Ali Bhai, good to see you back again. If you want, drop by. And yeah, I agree. Madin, sorry.
Sorry?
There's a feedback, heavy feedback from your side. Yeah. Do you want to say something?
Me? No, no, no. That's fine. That's all good.
All right. Ali Shah Bhai, if you want to join, please join. I think link is public, but what I'll do is I'll paste it once again. I think I've pinned it, but not quite sure. I can't see it pinned. Maybe somebody can tell me whether the link is pinned or not. And if they want to drop by and talk for a few minutes, then they're welcome. If they want to talk about the original title that we were discussing, they can also do that. If they want to talk about the Justin Barrett study, they can also do that. Or Ali Bhai is here. Oh, sorry, I've been kicking you out again. Yeah, sorry. I changed the layout and then I'm trying to see on the left whether I can't see you. What happened? All right, Ali Bhai, how are you?
I'm very good, brother. How are you?
Good, good, good. So Madan, I don't know if you're watching our last stream. Ali was there. Ali is originally, I don't know. Ali, if you want to reveal anything about
Yeah,
you,
I
that
was born in a Muslim family and then I left it because I started questioning the existence, the very
you're basically
existence of God
you're
Himself.
originally from Pakistan, right? Okay.
Yes, I'm originally from Pakistan. I joined this ex-Muslim movement like 2.5, 3 years ago. Then I personally found some issues in it, and I thought that I'm not powerful enough to make any changes in this movement within itself. So I just part myself from it. Now I just do independent work, just talk to other ex-Muslims, and just talk to people who are critics of any religion, and that's what's up. That's all my story. Not a very famous ex-Muslim. Not a lot of people know me, but I try to engage with whoever I can and whenever I can. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much my introduction.
All right. I don't know how long have you been watching us, but good to have you here. Yeah, even our last conversation was pretty decent enough, by the way. And at some point, I think you dropped off basically because of some
Oh,
issue.
because my phone actually got too hot and it just
Oh,
got turned
okay.
off. Yeah, so I had to take a break. I was sitting outside. I was not at the house, so I was sitting outside, and my phone just got too hot.
All right. All right. Yeah. Yeah. So, anything you have for that Justin Barrett study or the topic that we were covering for today, basically? I think we abandoned it in a sense. Basically, we only talked about Trinity. We didn't go into Tawhid, and we did touch upon a little bit. Allah's hands and all those things. Allah's shan, the all the sifat that are there, right? Are they essential part of it? We haven't touched on any of those basically, right? And I mean, we can tease out all those things as well, pretty much from both the sides. I think from our perspective, I think both the sides are, in error basically. And so, but we didn't get to touch that topic too well today. But maybe we'll take it up some other day. So, if you have anything to add to those, Ali, yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, sure. I watched that debate like maybe more than once. I watched it, and I paid very good attention when I was listening to the arguments from the both sides. I personally think none of them have answered any of the questions asked by the counterpart.
Yeah,
Whatever Haqiqatjou and so the thing was. The fallacy that I found the most to be committed in that debate was whataboutism. So
yeah. I saw that a
like
little bit. I mean, when I
yeah,
just
like so what if we have this in our religion? You have that too.
All right.
Okay, just because I have that in my religion, because according to you, my religion is bad and my religion is wrong. So you cannot draw a comparison between a wrong religion and a right religion because you are a proclaimer or you are a claimant of a claim that your religion is the right one and your opponent is the bearer of a wrong religion. So if I say that, so what if this phenomena is present in my religion? So what? It's there in your religion too. So, but mine is wrong. You just said that mine is wrong. So how come you can
I think, yeah,
compare?
that's what at the very beginning of the stream, I told Mahadan that we don't need to do much, pretty much, because we can take Muslims' arguments against Christians and Christians' arguments against Muslims, pretty much, right?
Yes,
And they want both of them, right? You know,
but
killing
there
two
is no
birds with one
answers
stone,
to
pretty
either
much.
of those. Like there's no concrete answer to Haqiqatjou's questions. I'm not saying his questions were invalid, and I'm not saying that Sam Shamoun's questions were invalid either. But it's just that they both kept playing it on each other or against each other, but never actually provided any answers. Okay, so how can three gods be one? That's a valid question. Okay, how can a one god, a timeless god, have a body parts? I mean, those questions stayed, remained unanswered. And I really think that I wasted like 5 hours of my life watching that debate because the concrete answers were not there from both sides. It is a valid question that how can three gods be one, and it is a valid question that how can be a timeless and a spaceless god have body parts. So, I mean, what can I say,
I
man?
think
I
they
just
have
didn't find
they
answers.
I think both the theologies, both the sides have devised ways to reconcile these problems, basically, and that's what religions do, basically, and that's what they have been doing for eternity, pretty much, right? I mean, for eternity past, in the sense.
So true, so true. So
Anytime,
just the word jargon, just play with your words
yeah,
and make
it's a word salad, pretty much. At some point,
yeah.
basically, you can reconcile pretty much any problem within your you know. So yeah, that's what it is, basically. Martin, you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, yeah. You want to add something to what others said?
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at this through the lens of apologetics, right? And maybe you don't want to completely look at it through the quest for truth or critical analysis. It's more so, first of all, a attempt to defend your faith against the other faith, and therefore making one faith look just as good or just as bad or better, slightly better, is enough, right? So you have to think about it that way, and they're just trying to be persuasive and or retain. They're focusing on retention. They're trying to retain the members and so on. So they're not really there to defend their faith per se and answer the questions with sophistication. Maybe they'll do that in the background. Maybe they'll do that in the background in private. But
Yeah,
they're here.
it's a
Yeah,
quest to maintain the cult following, basically. Yeah, in a
kind of.
sense.
Yeah. But I want to say that in particular, they're trying to maintain it through showing that if I think all of these problems are hard problems that even theologians maybe think about, but on a 3 hour debate full of lay people watching, and they're trying to retain the Christian and Muslim count, right? They don't want people become ex-Muslims. They can't answer these questions because it's just too convoluted. It's disagreeable. The people can reason. People can agree to disagree with these things. It's very complicated. So all they have. So if I was them, this would be the best strategy. Just hide my ones and highlight the flaws of the other. As
The other
much.
ones,
All
yeah,
right,
I think it's, yeah, shoot and
we got
scoop
some
kind of
shitty things, but
thing.
you got more shitty things. We got some confusing things, but you've also got some confusing things. So you
Yeah.
know better. You know
I
better.
mean, it's just about you got a little bit more than us.
Yes.
We might seem absurd to you, but you are more absurd to everybody else. Basically, that's what it is. I think true that.
Yes. So I would say this is actually a smart strategy in the debate from a persuasion point of view for lay audience. From an intellectual, no, it's not. It's just fallacy, like you said, fallacious. But from a different point of view, it is fine. This is exactly what you should do. But go on.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to convince them. They'll keep saying that they're on a quest for truth, but it's far from it. Basically, they have their truths already preconceived in their heads, basically, right? And then they'll fit in any and every data according to that belief, basically, that truth that they have in their heads, basically. And they won't pretty much heed anything else that is posed to them from their opponents, or even from anybody outside their own this bubble kind of a thing, pretty much. So yeah, that's the way it goes, basically. But this is how they win these kind of debates, basically. And anytime you go to their
So
channel
if you
stream.
remember last time when we were talking on your stream, and we actually kind of touched this briefly, that's what happens when you draw conclusions first and then look for evidence,
Exactly, yes,
rather than other way around.
right.
So they have conclusions that their religion is the right one. That is the conclusion they have come up to from generations. And honestly, I think any religious person, there's
Ali, we can't hear you. Your voice is gone. Can't hear you again.
hear me now.
Yes,
Do you hear
now
me
we
now?
can. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I was saying that there might be other reasons too to be religious, but the major key in staying religious is that you're just born in that family, and that's just the truth. Like, no one can deny it. Most of the religious people are religious because they are born in a religious family. Conversions are very rare. People don't convert
Right,
from the religion
exactly.
they're born in.
Maybe 1 or 2% people at max convert to other
Exactly.
religion. Yeah.
So they have their
True.
conclusions made, pre-made conclusions, and then they look for evidence, and that's why they face this embarrassment in front of the whole world. Like, you cannot answer three God in a one, and you cannot answer God having body parts. That's just
Right.
embarrassing for both of them.
No, but in their heads, from their following, it makes perfect sense to have 3 person in one and all those things for Christian, and the same for Muslim side as well. Yeah? It makes complete sense for them to have body parts, but this is only metaphorical, right? Who says this is for real? How can God have body parts? How can God have 3 in 1? God has to be one. These are 3 essences and all. So these are later reconciliations, basically. And same is true for almost every faith, pretty much. All right, guys. So we should Ali, you want to add something, anything else? Mahadin, you want to add anything, or shall we just close the stream for tonight and let's do another one later on, maybe over the weekend?
No, I don't want to add anything unless Ali wants to ask another question or so.
Oh no, I think I've said what I've said. That was it from me. And my closing remarks would be: stay away from anything that takes you towards religious dogma, because religious dogma leads up to religious violence. Please stay away from such claims.
Right. All right. So before we leave the stream, what I'll ask everybody who's listening, or who's gonna listen to the stream, is like, subscribe, and share. And remember, we have one English only channel where, for the timing, we are doing our English streams on Philosapiens only. But in future, we want to move on to Unveiling Faith. That's going to be our English only channel, and then Philosapiens is going to become our Hindi Urdu channel, basically. So we want to separate these two, but for the timing, we are using Philosapiens for both of them. So anybody who can understand English and likes to listen to in English and likes philosophical subjects, basically, then should subscribe to Unveiling Faith, basically, and then go check out the videos on both the channels. Like, subscribe, and share. All right, guys, then good night for now.
All right, guys, we'll take a leave now. I hope you guys stay happy,
All
healthy,
right.
wealthy.
All right, Ali, Madan, thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.